Hey guys, Andre Bricks here, and today I'm coming back at you with another video on Brickmania. And so what we're going to be looking at today is a kit that I think gets a little bit too much love. And what I mean by that is I think that the kit in front of you, this is the DAC Messenger with the motorcycle, is highly overrated from Brickmania. I myself was a victim of kind of overrating it before I got it, but I think that once I received it, I kind of realized that it was overrated. So first, starting off with the build, let's get it to zoom in a little bit. I need to adjust my camera. There we go. So what you see here, of course, is a motorbike. So it rolls all right? As you can see, it's a little bumpy, but what you can see is immediately after you start pushing on it, that middle part starts depressing. And then as you push more, it depresses even more. So it's not sturdy. I mean, I think that's the first thing, as you could see. Clearly very not sturdy. I mean, the little kickstand, as you saw, which is represented by this tan hand, broke off, and this entire center console just kind of fell to the ground, and now it can't roll, and it's kind of scraping the ground. So, I mean, in my eyes, this kit, at least to me, seemed like it was meant for heavy use, much more than some of their larger kits, which are, more display models and stuff like that. So from that interpretation, I assumed that you would be able to use it a lot without kind of having something like this happen. So this is quite disappointing. I think another thing is that if you look, the wheels are actually not centered on this. If I move it back just a little bit so you guys can see better, you can see that because of the way that the Technic piece works, this wheel is not centered in the front. So to me, that's just a little bit weird. You think that you could come up with a workaround to make it more centered and have the wheel not completely, off center. Another issue, as you can see by the falling pieces, is that it's very fragile. There's a lot of pieces here that are connected by one little hinge or just barely snapped on or barely held on by anything. And that makes a lot of pieces on this vehicle very susceptible to falling off. So, I mean, obviously that's quite the large issue because you can't really have stuff always falling off if, this is meant to be something that you could use and not necessarily just for display purposes. Those are the biggest issues with the model. It's really just kind of the fragile nature. I bent it, it made it look so weird. It's kind of really just the fragile nature of the kit and the fact that you put any pressure on it, see, you use it, and then that middle part just depresses down and descends down to the, the surface that you're using it on. That really needs to hold up more, and, that's an issue. I know that a lot of people will say, hey, this is meant for display, blah, 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 blah. But yes, it is meant for display, but all other Brickmania products that I have, you can still, roll without them losing their form. You can still roll them without essentially breaking, but this one, you roll it and it breaks, right? I think that's kind of, you can't really come back from that. That's unacceptable, and that really needs to be addressed, in my opinion, in a future version of the kit, because you can't make a motorcycle that you can't roll, much like you couldn't make a Humvee that couldn't roll. I mean, imagine the backlash if they produced a kit of a Humvee where if the minute that you started rolling it on the table with any use of pressure or force from your hand, the middle bowed in and the model essentially broke, right? I think that you would see a lot more of complaints from that. Likely the reasoning behind there not being a lot of complaints on this model, I'm assuming, is that it's a lot lower price point, but still, you're buying a premium kit from a premium company and you should expect a premium product. This is not a premium product, I'm sorry to say. So the next thing to look at, if I get my little stand, is the minifigure. Let's see if I can get it to focus on him. So as you can see, here's the figure. I think that the best part of this figure is probably the head. I really think that the dust covering on it works really well. One thing that I do have qualms with is the thickness of the lines on this figure. There are some times where I think the Brickmania thickness of the lines that they use is very appropriate and works very well. But I mean, when you look at this figure, especially those magazines for an MP40, what you see is kind of just, it looks sloppy. All the lines are running into each other and you lose any semblance of detail. Because of that, it really just doesn't work for me. Some of you might have other opinions. You might say, hey, those thick lines are really nice and look really good on those magazines. But to me, when you look at those, they're essentially just like green sticks. I mean, it's really hard to see any detail in those magazines. Additionally, when you look at the back, I think that the thick lines don't really do justice to his knapsack and canteen. They almost look cartoonish on this figure. There are many other Brickmania figures where I think that the thick lines don't add this sort of effect to the degree that this one does. Like, if I'm looking around right now at my displays, for example, the American Revolution figure, I don't think that it holds the same level of thick lines. So that's an issue for this one, especially on those magazines on the front. It's not as much of an issue as you can see on the collar and on the pockets and the other stuff, like the belt. I think that the weighting of the line on the belt appears thinner than the other places and appears better. So I don't really know why the thickness is just, it's so thick on the magazines, and I think that's an issue. So those are the main issues with the minifigure. The helmet is nice. It would have been better if these goggles were not printed on, in my opinion, and you were given just kind of a minifig cat or another accessory to put on, because I don't like this printed goggle. I think that it makes it look really unrealistic. But anyways, you know, this has been a short little video just kind of talking about this kit. I know that a lot of people have hyped up this kit in the past, and that's why I felt like I had a responsibility to kind of give an honest review about what I think of it. I know that after my initial build of this kit, I think that I did a speed build. I had pretty nice remarks about it, but I think that after using it for a while and kind of being unable to use it to its, you know, to the best of its ability, not being able to push it down, right? That's kind of unacceptable. I've realized that this kit isn't as great as the hype made it out to be. So, you know, would I recommend this? I don't think I would. I think that if you could get the minifigure alone, maybe I would recommend this. Still, that magazine issue to me is pretty big and signifies that you need to do some better research into kind of whether this figure would match with the rest of your army that you're building. But anyways, that's kind of the summation of my viewpoint on this. Of course, you're allowed to your own opinions on this. I know that many people probably have the opposite opinion of me, and I'd love to hear those. So as always, leave that in the comments below. But anyways, like, comment, subscribe, do all the normal stuff, and I'll catch you next time, guys.